Welcome back to Velshi and Ruhle. I am very looking forward to this conversation as the Trump administration's conduct with Ukraine comes under serious scrutiny by Congress. We are joined by a former member of President Trump's cabinet who has chosen to speak out about his experiences there. Joining me now, former Secretary of Veterans Affairs, David Shulkin. He has a new book titled, "It Shouldn't Be This Hard to Serve Your Country: Our Broken Government and the Plight of Veterans." David, welcome. The title of your book is very sad. What are you hoping to accomplish? You took the job to lead our Veterans Affairs to serve these people who you say need it the most, and you couldn't do it. Why?
Well, you're right. I left my job as a private sector CEO to come to Washington to fix the system for our veterans, because I believe if there's any group of Americans who deserve the very best this country can give, it's our veterans.
Damn right.
And we were fixing this system. I believe this is an important system to fix. We were making progress. And I wrote the book about how we were doing that and how we can continue to improve care for our veterans. But I also wrote it for a second reason. And that reason is that, in my experience, public service has become so difficult in this type of environment that I really worry about the future of people like me who we need to come and serve in government.
So why was it impossible? You weren't there that long. So you're saying you were fixing it and then you left. In the book, you say you were chugging along and political appointees, relationships the president had, were using back channels to undermine the work that you were doing. Explain this to me, because that rationale seems to be in parallel with the people who we've heard testify about what's going on with Ukraine.
I joined government first in the Obama administration. President Obama asked me to come in to help fix the VA. And then I was given the opportunity to stay in the Trump administration. So I was in Washington for 3 years and got to really understand the problems in Veterans Affairs. And as I began to start working on this, there were a small group of political appointees in the Trump administration who didn't share the political ideology that I had, which was...
What were they motivated by?
Well, I think that they came in with a belief that government shouldn't be involved in services, and some of them were supported by the Koch brother organization, and really felt strongly that I wasn't moving in the way that they felt that they should.
Did they have business motivations, profitability motivations to privatize this?
Well, I never saw any particular motivations or financial motivations. I think that this was really a belief in a political ideology that differed. And I just felt strongly, a principle I believed in, that our veterans deserve a strong VA system. They should have the ability to go into the private sector if they need to.
Then why'd you walk out?
I did not walk out. And I will tell you something. This was a difficult time for me and my family, but any type of suffering that I personally had does not compare to the men and women that I met who are our veterans, who've sacrificed so much, and I was not going to walk out on them, and I would not resign.
Then why do you think the president didn't want you in the job?
Well, I think that the president came to believe through some of these back channels that I wasn't moving in the direction and moving quick enough towards privatizing the VA, and that's what I spoke out about the day after I was fired, that the reason I believed is because I wasn't willing to see the VA be privatized.
Then does it surprise you to watch career diplomats talk about how bewildered they were that a private citizen, Rudy Giuliani, would have his own system of a shadow foreign policy? Does that seem similar to what you experienced?
Yeah, unfortunately, the situation that I experienced is not unique. I feel like we're seeing this time and time again, a repeat behavioral pattern where we're seeing people undermine career diplomats, career officials, other political appointees. We've now had 17 people leave the cabinet. And, you know, that lack of continuity is really disruptive for the mission of a big agency. The Department of Veteran Affairs has 370,000 people, and it needs consistency in leadership.
If I said to you, describe in one word why 17 people would leave cabinet positions, what would you say?
Well, I'd say unbelievable, but certainly chaotic.
Chaotic. The VA Inspector General issued a report this week that said the VA Whistleblower's Office has created a culture of retaliation that has made it almost impossible to be a whistleblower. What's your response to that?
Well, I was the secretary when we passed the Whistleblower Protection Act because people have to feel safe to be able to raise concerns. And this, again, is what we're seeing.
Why don't they feel safe in the VA?
Well, I think what this Inspector General report said is that they were being retaliated against. And, of course, that's just not acceptable.
Did you see that when you were there?
I knew that there was a struggle with this, and so we were implementing changes. And so this report actually documents issues that I think are important to come to light so that the VA can do a better job.
You are bringing all of this to light. That's why you wrote this book. The anonymous Trump administration, how do you call them? A person who wrote that infamous op-ed about the chaos inside the White House, I believe is going to write a tell-all, according to the New York Times. Do you think that person needs to identify themselves? You've put yourself out there.
I do. I think it is a duty that if you see something that's important, since government is not working the way it should right now, we have to have a honest, transparent debate about this to reset the environment in Washington. And I don't know any way to do it unless you're willing to put your name behind it. And when I wrote this book, I went through every word to make sure that it was something that I believed was honest and I believed in. And I believe that that's a duty as an American citizen. Many
people are bewildered by the president's recent about-face in terms of foreign policy, Syria, Turkey, and they are calling upon General Mattis to explain what happened, what he saw when he was in government. He hasn't thus far. Do you think he should?
Well, I respect General Mattis extremely with a high degree of regard, and I believe that he is a public servant and a very, very patriotic person. I believe he will speak out when he feels the time is right. And I do believe when we're seeing decisions being made like they are, that it's important that people begin to start speaking out and tell us what their thoughts are.
I know we got to go. On a 1 to 10, your experience, how difficult was it for you to do your job during the Trump administration?
Well, we had a lot of progress, and towards the end, it was a 10.
A 10. David, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for writing the book. You're right. It should not be this hard to serve your country, our broken government, and the plight of veterans. Read this book. It's an important one. I want to bring back my partner, Ali Velshi. Ali, what do you think of that?
So this is interesting because you and I have talked about this many times. I think once you said, you know, going to work at the White House isn't like it's not cleaning toilets at Times Square on New Year's Eve. But
Worst
the fact is,
ever.
when you go to serve in the government or in the White House, historically, I think until this presidency, it has been the kind of thing that is good for you, regardless of party or whatever the case is. You served your country, you did your time, and you come out and do something else. We have seen many instances in this era, in this presidency, where that's not the case. People come out quite wounded with damage to their reputations and their professional abilities.
And that's the thing, Ali. Put the current administration aside, this country has a history of experts and business leaders in the second portion of their career saying, you know what, it's my time. I'm going to take my expertise and I'm going to serve in government for a period of time. But what we are seeing happen to some of those people who are either joining the government, joining councils, or speaking out, they are getting absolutely burned. Their reputations, their lives, their families are saying, are you kidding me? We don't want to see this pattern continue. We want our best and our smartest when they have the time and the opportunity to go serve.
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, it used to be a very big deal on Wall Street that if you did that kind of thing, it was good for you, it was necessary, it was important for the country. So hopefully that tradition doesn't stop.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.